started working as an early childhood educator, I felt like I had a lot of responsibility on my shoulder to help raise and support other parents' children. And so I spent a lot of time worrying that I wouldn't know what to do or wouldn't know what to say every time a new situation came up with a young child. And so while I worried, I listened. I spent a lot of time listening to the way that other adults talked with young children, and I figured it was only a matter of time before I'd heard every possible conversation that an adult and a child could have with one another. Boy, was I wrong. What can prepare you for that moment when a young child steps out on the playground and announces that his father's penis is this big, like announcing a prized catch? Or the moment when a little girl leans up to your ear and whispers that when she grows up, she wants to be a boy, or a fish, or maybe a chipmunk. What can prepare you for that moment that a young child kisses you on the knee and announces that now you are married? And nothing can prepare you for that moment when your own child throws her arms around you and says, I love you, for the first time. Over the last 20 years, I've had the privilege of hearing conversations with thousands of children and adults. And I noticed a lot of similarities across those conversations. Most parents talk to their children about how much they love them, about their hopes and dreams for them, their family values, or what it means to be polite and have good manners. But then I also saw that there are many conversations that families don't have in common. When I was working with military families, I heard conversations about war, about deployment, about separation from a loved one, about the possibility or even the reality of losing a loved one. And these weren't conversations that other families were having. When I worked with children and families in inner city urban areas, and particularly in families from communities of color, conversations about the color of your skin and how that impacted the way you might be perceived when you went out in the community and the discrimination you might face were everyday reminders of the systemic discrimination that some children faced. But other families, and particularly many of those in the dominant culture, weren't having those same conversations with their children. Still, other families sat around the dinner table and talked about why there wasn't enough food to go around, and other families talked about which college might be the best fit for their child in 15 years when they turned 18. It was through all of these conversations that inspired me to write this book. The collective knowledge from all of these children, families, and the many colleagues that I've had over the years that inspired me to write this book for my child and for yours, to help them become part of creating that compassionate society that we all want to see, to help them understand not just the conversations that we have in our own families that are meaningful in our own lives, but the kinds of conversations that are important to other families too, so that we can build understanding and compassion. In this book, I include conversation examples focused on conversations that help us as parents embed compassion into our parenting approach. Conversations that help children learn about the qualities that make them and others who they are, so we can build self-awareness and understanding. Conversations that foster resilience in helping children think about how we can manage our tough emotions or tackle tough topics that we're not always sure how to talk about. And conversations that help us think about how we extend all of this beyond ourselves to really foster compassion and finding our own voice. Along with those conversations are family activities, storybook recommendations, discussion questions, and question and answers that help us take what's learned through these conversations and apply them to those tough parenting questions that we have for ourselves. I am so excited to share this book with you.